Hi, I'm Cass and this is Honey.
And we're regular Canadians enjoying weed. And we're here with an icon, with Owen Smith.
And we got some big thank yous for him.
This is the infamous baker who went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada and got medicinal edibles legal for all us weed enjoyers.
So here's an infused drink to you, sir.
I don't think that this will be a Pinterest fail.
You think that I'm a wizard?
I
A
think
cocktail wizard?
You're a cocktail wizard, yes, I do.
Well.
And that if it's infused, really, how good does it have to be, you know? Like, which I say not as an indication of my expectations, not mine, but just to make you feel better.
Thank you.
I think that you're, yum, look, there's herbs.
Oh, whoa. Get over there.
Herbs.
Herbs.
Thank
Cheers.
you. So happy to have you here.
Thank you for
Thanks
inviting
having
us.
Yes.
And thank you for fighting the good fights that we can all have edibles be legal.
Delicious. That it's a historical movement. It's something that I felt when I was, for points along the way, just how many other people's lives and energy went into kind of creating the circumstances that we needed to wiggle our way through the court process, all the way through across the finish line. It's people's lives where from this most horrible suffering of patients at the Cannabis Buyers Club to people like Ted Smith, who has used his health to help other people and continues to do so to this day, providing all low-cost options for the medical users at the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. Ted was a great inspiration to me, and I could say he held my hand the whole way, necessarily.
How did you two come across each other?
Well, Ted used to do hempology circles at the University of Victoria.
It sounds so amazing.
We had it's mythical, a big field in the middle of the campus where up to 300 people would gather around in a circle, and Ted would be standing in the center, slowly rotating with a megaphone or a microphone, speaking about politics of cannabis, the medicine, the history, all this different current events, and then we'd smoke joints at 420. It was how I learned about medical cannabis for the first time. All the serious stuff that was going on, but also, Ted was on the top of the research and stuff too, so you can start to learn about the endocannabinoid system, and that's really a mind-opening thing to think about. Of course, his books he had laid out there. I can't remember. I think it was The Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Yeah.
You read that?
Well, I've heard of it, but haven't read it. Yeah.
It's
Iconic.
a classic.
It's
kind of what really switches the gears from Prohibition set of stories, taking all of those and flipping them on their end. And it's something to read. A lot of newspaper clippings and all of that through there.
And it's really something getting to go to a hempology meeting or reading a book like that, or just spending hours and hours in a YouTube black hole, however it is that you choose to get educated. I think, like you say, it's once you learn some of these things, once you learn about the endocannabinoid system, once you learn about Harry J. Anslinger, and once you learn about the way people have been using cannabis in ancient societies, or this or that, then suddenly you're like, I'm an activist now. Oh my god, this is wrong, because it's once you have that eye-opening, I think more people would feel the same way.
And what inspired me to join the Cannabis Buyers Club, while I was out doing this landscaping and having a nice time, my sister got sick with cancer. She was having an exchange program, doing counseling out in Quebec, and got a really bad sunburn, and they considered that the cause of her melanoma skin cancer. That was on the side of her head here. She had surgery that left her with a large indent and scarring all down her neck, a lot of pain, and she was in chemotherapy. The doctors, my family is pretty conservative, and were going by everything that the doctors had for her. And so we went through the regimes of drugs, and eventually the doctors had nothing else that was going to help her. This cancer had spread, and they gave her time to live. So at that point, my parents were looking at other options, cannabis being one of those, because I told them about how it could be helpful with the side effects of chemotherapy, getting appetite, helping with pain, specifically with chronic pain, and therefore creating the conditions needed to help sleep and then be able to communicate and have conversations with us. She's at the time a scholarship student at UVic, first year music. She would sing in the church every Sunday. She's just a really beautiful person. Cannabis helped her get the functions back. She was eating a Subway sandwich soon after she smoked a big joint that she got from the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. She used topical stuff, she used edibles, and she was able to share in what her experience was of the last months of her life, which were really impactful for my family. As you can imagine, when somebody in your family is dying, everybody gets very emotional, and many of the previous kind of petty disputes between the family were healed at that time, and her peace during that time was very therapeutic, you could say, but very healing, profound for us. But then she did pass away. And after that experience, I was very much tuned into that people needed help with this cannabis products, and they needed people to help them, even though it was against the law to do so. I offered myself in a service to the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, and Ted hired me back in 2007, I think. It was 2007 or 2008. Yeah, and it didn't take too long before I got arrested. 2009, December 2009. Bang, bang, bang! It's the police. You must open up, and they came in. I let them in. And I told them this is the bakery for the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. And I suppose they were they didn't know whether to believe me at first. But it happened to be that there was some cannabis exposed on the table, so they could charge me with possession. And so they called it in, and the next person to come was a man named David Bratzer. And David Bratzer is the Secretary for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which is an organization of police officers, mostly retired, but some active, who actively kind of oppose prohibition from their perspective.
Good for you guys.
And I really loved that group. I mean, I think they've been really influential, as well as, it refreshes it's refreshing to think about the police after a century of worrying about them taking your cannabis away, to really think about them as kind of protectors of the neighborhood. They're here that they protect you for various reasons. One of the terrible parts of prohibition is that people stopped trusting them, and they wouldn't share their issues with them. And so building trust again with the community services is a wonderful part of legalization that people haven't really been talking about, but it will be a gradual shift in the right direction.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and so he showed up on the same night that you're door knocking.
He was the third person.
And so he's still in the police,
even though
he's in this group.
Correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
He pokes his head around the corner, and I recognize him because on the wall right there is a poster that I'd made for the 6th annual, I think it was about the 10th annual cannabis convention we had at UVic, and he was one of the speakers. So
how cool!
Later on in the evidence, there was a picture of the poster.
In the evidence!
And I think
busted.
it was part of that he had to be he was no longer acting on the file kind of thing. He had to be removed from it or something because
he's the most informed on the subject.
Yeah.
because he
knows
had
the most.
some previous knowledge of us, had some
right,
previous
okay.
relationship, which wasn't the only one. I mean, it's not a big town, so
No.
so I got arrested. There they didn't put any cuffs on me. I basically told the police, look, this is cannabis edibles for people who are really sick. You know, if you go ahead and take these, people who are meant to have them won't get them. They're not meant for you. So I told them, you know,
They're too strong for you, so don't even dabble.
these are specifically for seriously ill Canadians. People will not be able to sleep tonight. There will be people who have seizures because you are taking away their medicine, and people will be writhing in pain. Quite a lot of people, in fact. And I need you to know that. You know, the police, even though they're doing their job, it's important to understand what the consequences are for people in the community, because we're not just doing this to be bad, because being bad is fun. We're doing this for very important, serious reasons that are no fun for those people at all. So I enjoyed kind of telling them, but
Good that you did it.
Did they take them?
Good.
they did. They
Ah.
did seize all the products, and
I thought there was going to be a good ending where they didn't.
well, there is a bit is a bit of a better ending.
Yeah.
We went to the police station, and I was interrogated a number of times in the interrogation room for 8 hours. It was just kind of cold and uncomfortable mostly, but you know they were talking about it in the hallway, and I could hear them. So I put my ear to the door, and I was listening to what they're saying. Oh, can we test this stuff? You know, you can't see it. You know, you can't. So we have to send it off to get tested. What are we going to do with them? We keep them overnight. You know, Health Canada hasn't got back to us yet. All this stuff. It was quite interesting and exciting. And as an
These guys
advocate,
don't know what to do with me.
being in the middle of that, you know, not only the fact that the walls around you, they're there for, you know, they're sending a strong message of you've done something wrong, you need to be boxed in. But inside you, it amplifies that I'm actually doing something right, and now I'm experiencing what it's like to be in the face of the actual injustice which is out there.
Yeah.
And so and it felt like an important time for me, and I also say to other people, you know, if you do have that situation that does occur for you, that you know, you can think about it that way too. And I remember leaving the police station, and the police asked me, you know, why did you do this? And I said to him, you know, I had a sister who died of cancer, and she used this to help her sleep and eat and talk with her family. I just don't want other people to have to suffer like that. And he was just, it's like, all right, you know, they were just getting it. It's like they were hearing the story coming through us, and they were kind of like, you know, it was clicking. You could kind of tell that the cops understood. When we got our papers from the prosecution, it includes the sentencing report, their initial arguments, and a bunch of pictures that the police had taken of the scene and the things. Well, they had to take a picture of one jar that had dropped and broken in the evidence room, and it was grapeseed oil infusion with liquid lecithin in the bottom. And so if anyone's familiar with liquid lecithin, it's incredibly hard to clean off. It's super slick and sticky. It's the worst to try to clean off.
Best lube, worst thing to clean off.
And the oil had a really strong cannabis smell to it, so it smashed on the floor of the evidence room. And I just imagined that night after I left that the whole police station was filled with the stench, the strong, powerful odor of cannabis.